Welcome to Resilient Inspirations. Around here, we believe every story carries a lesson, and every question opens a new door. Think of this as friends talking over coffee, exploring ideas together. So let's get started, and I'll pass the mic to the conversation.
Welcome to The Debate. Our focus today is on a strategic guide titled Minimalist Steps to Financial Freedom 2026. Now, this blueprint, it outlines a really detailed and frankly aggressive path toward independence. It marries these deep minimalist practices with pretty sophisticated digital side hustles, passive income generation, and highly simplified investment strategies. The core claim, woven through its sections on wealth and lifestyle design, is that this whole journey leads directly to, comprehensive mental wellness and sustainability.
And that premise, I think, is exactly what we need to rigorously examine. I mean, it's a very attractive proposition, isn't it? Trading in the daily grind for financial independence and peace of mind. But the execution, well, it seems to require a level of efficiency and digital commitment that raises serious questions about whether this path is truly holistic for everyone.
Absolutely. And our central question today is really this. Is this highly optimized, digitally reliant, minimalistic path truly a sustainable, universally accessible solution for achieving long-term well-being? Or does the sheer intensity of the required optimization impose new sort of insidious demands on the individual? So I'll be arguing that this integrated framework offers a superior evidence-based roadmap to holistic freedom.
Right. And I'm going to contend that its reliance on hyper-efficiency and, frankly, constant digital engagement creates substantial, often hidden burdens. And it overlooks, I think, significant accessibility challenges, particularly for those who might be skeptical or maybe lack strong technical or financial foundations to begin with.
Okay, so let me begin by outlining why I believe this framework succeeds where perhaps others fail. The MFF model, as I see it, provides a really resilient roadmap precisely because it integrates financial stability directly with mental and environmental health. This isn't just about accumulating wealth. It's almost like preventative medicine. The guide cites some persuasive data linking financial certainty to tangible improvements in mental health. It notes that individuals who establish solid financial foundations report up to, I think it was 35% lower stress levels. Now, that is significant, verifiable well-being, not just some abstract benefit.
That data is compelling, I grant you, but it only measures stress after financial stability is achieved, doesn't it? It kind of glosses over the acute stress required during that whole transition phase.
Well, yes, but the transition is meant to be accelerated by the core tenets of minimalism itself. By immediately adopting practices that curb excessive consumption, the average household instantly saves about 25% of their annual expenditure. That's according to research cited right in the guide. So this creates an immediate surplus, you see, that can be funneled into growth. And when readers then apply these low-risk, verified strategies like diversifying into funds yielding, say, 7% annually, and that data is based on Morningstar projections for 2024, well, the path starts to feel steady and, importantly, achievable, even for those starting small with micro investments.
I come at it from a different way, I suppose. That savings data, it only really applies that the individual is willing and, crucially, able to implement pretty drastic lifestyle changes almost immediately. For the skeptical, the hard-to-convince audience we mentioned, the immediate hurdle isn't saving 25%, it's overcoming the psychological inertia and, frankly, the continuous digital commitment the plan demands. The blueprint's reliance on constant digital engagement and generating, quote, extra income doesn't eliminate stress from my view. It fundamentally trades the, maybe physical burden of a traditional job for the mental burden of continuous multi-platform asset management.
But surely that complexity is offset by the intentionality behind it.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that the complexity is truly offset, especially when the guide itself promotes continuous management of multiple income streams. Freelancing on gig economy platforms, launching digital products, managing dividend stocks, maybe even dabbling in crypto. The book does address overcoming barriers, yes, but the solutions often require immediate immersion in quite sophisticated digital tools. You have to master financial tracking software, UNAB, or personal capital are mentioned, which demand granular, continuous input. This initial knowledge gap, combined with the demand for constant technical adaptation, presents a substantial and I think unacknowledged barrier to entry. It practically ensures many will simply burn out long before this promised freedom is ever realized.
Okay, well, that brings us directly to our first point of contention then. The sustainability of generating this extra income versus the very real risk of burnout.
Precisely. The MFF model requires generating foundational extra income, often through, let's be honest, pretty low-rate side hustles, like maybe $15 to $30 an hour freelancing, just to build that initial safety net. When success is contingent on sticking rigidly to a 30-day action calendar and continuous hustle optimization, the individual is effectively turning their leisure time into low-cost, high-stress labor, which, actively undermines the stated goal of mental wellness. Where is the time freedom when you're dedicating 2 or 3 evening hours to more work, plus all the administrative time to manage invoices, and importantly, reserve 20-30% for self-employment taxes?
I see why you think that, I do, but let me give you a different perspective. This isn't intended to be some kind of permanent hustle. It's framed as a highly efficient, temporary launchpad. The goal is to rapidly front-load the effort, to achieve critical mass, moving swiftly toward genuinely passive income revenue generated with minimal ongoing effort after the initial asset creation. That 30-day calendar isn't meant as a permanent yoke. It provides initial structure. And crucially, the guide emphasizes automation tools, which are explicitly designed to free up, they estimate, 5 to 10 hours monthly in management time, actively combating the burnout you describe by simplifying tasks.
But that automation only really benefits those who already possess the digital dexterity, the sort of innate comfort with tech to set up these often complex systems in the first place. For the uninitiated, attempting to master multiple platforms and integrate automated systems, well, that introduces stress rather than mitigating it, doesn't it?
But the psychological benefit, which is the immediate reduction of financial stress, remember that 35% figure, that's achieved simply by having the safety net of a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. And this fund is the direct result of that initial structured effort. So it's presented as a crucial trade-off, short-term intentional labor for long-term psychological security, making the journey hopefully self-reinforcing.
I still maintain that the mental tax of the digital mastery required to execute that trade-off is often greater than the guide acknowledges, especially I'd argue for a global audience, where accessibility to and proficiency with these digital platforms is highly variable.
Okay, well, let's shift the focus slightly then to the ethical and human dimensions of this blueprint, because I believe MFF is ethically superior in a way, precisely because it reframes wealth accumulation. It emphasizes collaborative wealth building and integrates sustainability goals right into the financial strategy. This is about aligning purpose with profit. The guide advocates investing in green technologies, for example, citing solar ETFs that have seen pretty strong growth, like 12% in 2024, apparently, demonstrating that financial strategy can be resilient, ethical, and purpose-driven. This allows the individual potentially to build a resilient, ethical legacy.
That's a compelling argument on the surface, but have you considered how this framework risks, instrumentalizing the ethical dimension? The guide positions actions like investing, say $500 in green tech as part of personal freedom, but when you immediately quantify that environmental action using pure financial performance metrics, like the Sharpe ratio, which measures return relative to risk, you risk diluting the genuine human commitment into mere strategic calculation.
But tracking metrics is essential, surely. We can't just rely on, good intentions or sentiment. The fact that the investments are measured against verifiable financial returns ensures the strategy is scalable and sustainable, rather than relying solely on altruism, which, let's face it, often fails in the long term.
Resilience, yes, perhaps, but at what human cost? For the skeptical individual who's genuinely trying to find authentic freedom and alignment, this highly optimized, calculated altruism, it can feel quite synthetic. The purpose gets reduced to just another performance metric, which for me challenges the authenticity of the whole holistic well-being claim. And this highlights the digital dependency issue perfectly, doesn't it? Because everything must be tracked, optimized, measured.
Well, the guide's premise, I think, is that transparency and measurement are necessary for efficiency and ultimately for success.
Yet that very demand for efficiency leads to what I see as an unacceptable exclusion of certain demographics. The blueprint claims accessibility for a diverse global audience, but virtually every core strategy demands complex digital interaction. I mean, we're talking about using financial tracking software to budget carefully, using centralized brokerage apps like Vanguard or Robinhood for micro-investing, and generating income via specific global gig platforms. This just presupposes a high level of digital literacy, reliable high-speed internet, and access to specific, often quite US-centric financial ecosystems.
See, I'm not fully convinced by that line of reasoning because the evidence shows accessibility is improving dramatically, and the platforms mentioned are often chosen specifically to lower the entry barrier. Robinhood, for instance, famously requires no minimum investment, and the reliance on global skill-sharing platforms like Upwork and Fiverr explicitly addresses how individuals without local assets or opportunities can create income digitally. The guide is structured more as an empowerment tool, pointing readers towards free online resources like Khan Academy courses for financial education to help close that knowledge gap.
But those tools only address the access to knowledge, not the implementation burden. For that hard-to-convince listener we keep mentioning, the initial requirement to master the entire system, the budgeting app, and the investment platform, and the side hustle marketplace, is a heavy, and I still say unacknowledged, mental tax. That complexity makes the promise of minimalist freedom feel like a conditional luxury, really, available only to those who are already pretty digitally savvy. Those success stories like Sarah Johnson earning $15,000 annually via Fiverr, they validate the results for those who succeed, sure. But they don't capture the experience of the, say, 70% who might quit after 60 days because the digital burden was just too overwhelming.
But the book provides the structure and the tools specifically designed to manage that complexity efficiently. It's a roadmap that requires intentional execution, yes, but not necessarily a pre-existing technical mastery. The goal, as I read it, is the democratization of opportunity through strategic digital leverage.
I just worry that intentionality itself is becoming the new scarcity in a world demanding constant digital engagement and optimization from us.
Okay, so in summarizing my position, I believe the MFF blueprint remains a strong, arguably superior framework. By focusing on intentional spending, leveraging automated low-maintenance income streams for stability, and aligning growth with documented, ethical, and sustainable goals, the individual genuinely gains time, peace, and financial security. The data, I think, supports the viability of this integrated path towards a life lived much more on one's own terms, potentially by 2026, as the title suggests.
And from my perspective, while the guide certainly offers powerful tools for optimization and, yes, utilizes valid data points regarding savings and potential returns, its definition of freedom often feels conditional. It seems contingent upon constant, high-level digital maintenance and the significant mental burden of maximizing every single resource. We really must question whether exchanging traditional corporate stress for the hyper-stress of continuous digital asset management truly liberates the average person, or if it simply masks a new type of financial treadmill under the very appealing guise of minimalism and well-being.
Well, I think both of our perspectives certainly illuminate the complexity inherent in pursuing financial independence in this digital age. It reminds us that the definition and indeed the cost and the accessibility of modern freedom must always be examined with rigor and perhaps a bit of intellectual humility.
That wraps up today's journey. Thanks to my friends for sharing their thoughts and to you for being part of this circle. Remember, inspiration isn't found once. It's built every day in small choices. If this talk spoke to you, share it, follow along, and let's keep the conversation alive. Until next time, stay curious and stay inspired.